had many, I guess, many styles and bands as influences when I was growing up. I think the first proper record I ever bought was Carole King, Tapestry. So I think at a young age I started, listening more to songs and songwriting from the age of about 10. But boy, through my childhood I went through all sorts of bands from, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, because I was around when they were. And then moved into some really kind of out there bands at the time, Gentle Giant, Yes, who I guess were a little bit commercial. And then when the Farris brothers got together, we were listening to things like Steely Dan, Little Feat, a lot of sort of funk and all types of music really, which I think is what comes out.
The interesting thing about growing up in Australia was back in the 70s and late 60s was there was no radio format to speak of, so we got to listen to everything. So influences when I grew up were Motown, Stevie Wonder, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Free, Queen, other Australian bands like the Saints. I mean, it just basically, the radio stations played everything, including crap pop from the days or interesting pop like Dusty Springfield. So we got to grow up listening to all styles of music.
When I was growing up, I'd have to say that the most influential band was the Beatles for me, and mainly Ringo as a drummer. I used to play along to Beatles records when I was a kid, and basically taught myself drums. Yeah, well, Ringo is my most favourite drummer of all time. I think that
the Beatles, I think, was the first band I ever saw was the Beatles. Had an impact on me when we were kids. Actually, the Farris brothers. Saw them in London in 1964 when we were little kids. And their music, obviously, and the songwriting in particular. Also because they really were responsible for the translation of, in many ways to me, of rock and roll with the singer-songwriter concept, as opposed to just being a rock and roller. They're also songwriting, and they were morphing things all the time, so they were an important band. But other people too, I liked the kind of nonchalant craziness of the Rolling Stones, and they had a certain panache, and they still do. I also liked a lot of my dad's music as well. He used to play a lot of records. He wasn't a musician, but he had a lot of records of his own, like Ray Charles and some sort of hootenanny, bluegrass stuff he used to listen to and stuff like that.
What bands and songs were inspirations for me growing up? Well, all kinds of things, I guess, from early Beatles. The Beatles were the first live band I ever saw on a television show in England when we as a family sailed to England from Perth to Southampton. By the way, go the White Sox. I'd have to say, I don't know, there's a lot of Australian bands we used to go and see as kids as well. And they had a great influence on me. Bands that probably very few people in the rest of the world, even in Australia, would even know. People like Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, the La-Di-Da's. The list just goes on. But having said that, from an international point of view, for us living in Australia, I'll never forget seeing Led Zeppelin. They had a profound effect on me. AC/DC, funnily enough. Malcolm Young is probably one of my idols, just the way he plays power chords. Songs, well, there's so many. There's things like Sweet Leaf of Master of Reality by Black Sabbath, that had a big impact on me too. I love the cover, apart from the song, just the whole album. Changes of Black Sabbath 4. Imagine by John Lennon. My life's been just full of music. In fact, when I was a really little kid, one of the first things I remember was a song called Pretty Flamingos. And that was when I started going, I want to listen to a lot more music.
All of them.
That's it? No,
That's it.
No, you don't want to
That's
expand
it.
on that? Okay.